I think that a lot of people, when they haven't experienced a Brazilian steakhouse, they do get freaked out.
Okay.
Like, because then it feels like a trick.
Yeah.
You know, like if you've never gone to a Brazilian steakhouse, it feels like, wait, so I can get as much as I want? What if I only want 3 items? And you're like, yes. And they're like, what if I only want it medium rare? And you're like, yes. And they're like, what if I go to the salad bar and I come back and then I go to the salad bar again? And I'm like, you can do that.
You're like, the world is yours at Avenida. Welcome back to Texas Tea. I'm Roger Dupre with Eastwood Energy. This is Melissa Abrantes with Avenida, Brazil. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Such a pleasure.
You see this fake smile? So good, right? I promise it's a real smile, guys. I actually am a super fanboy of their restaurant. It was back in the day, it was called, I can't pronounce it correctly.
Tradição.
Tradição, okay. Because I always say Tradicio.
I mean, it's really close.
Very close, very close.
I'm going to go off on a side tangent. It's
Okay.
actually in Portuguese. It's tradição.
Tradição.
Yeah.
I felt like I said that with a French
That was
accent.
it. I think I heard the little bit of the French.
Yeah, I'm Roger Dupuis. But anyways, so I'm a big fanboy of their Clear Lake location. When I worked at NASA, I would eat there all the time. But real quick, I like to start off the show with some advice to either budding entrepreneurs, restaurateurs, or someone who's looking to start a brick and mortar location. What would be like the biggest point of advice that you would give them for them to last 10, 20 years or into the future?
I would say that for just learn from your mistakes. So, for example, if you made a mistake, be easy on yourself. We are all human. We make them. That's life.
Yeah.
And then you just look back on it and you go, hey, that probably wasn't the smartest thing I've done.
Yeah.
Let me fix that for next time. Hopefully it's not an expensive mistake.
Hopefully.
That's done those. And then you also just celebrate the success. So when you have a success or you have a really good day and you have great sales, celebrate with your team, thank them, and really take those moments, because I mean, every day is so new in restaurants that you want to make sure that you're just living in that moment. Right.
So stay in the moment, guys. Learn from your mistakes, and party time when things are good, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask, I have a lot of questions from some people on my Facebook, actually, I asked before I came here. So you're very excited about that.
So excited.
Because I know you get a lot of questions from customers as well. I'm going to ask those and then kind of talk about how you guys have come up, the history of the restaurant. Avenida has rebranded. But before, I have a very selfish question I have for myself. Since I was such I was a big meat fanboy, big Brazilian meat fanboy, as well as the just amazing bread that you guys put out. I can't believe you guys put that out for free, technically, but I just love them so much. How are those made? How do you get the cheese inside? How is this just so perfectly baked?
So the secret really is going to be the flour. So the flour is super unique. It's yuca flour.
Yuca flour.
It's actually a product that can be really difficult to find, but we use 2 types. We have the sour and the sweet, and we mix it together. We blend it, and that's kind of part of the consistency of the bread. And then we mix 3 types of Parmesan cheese, eggs, and milk, and then we blend it, and it is so good, and it's delicious. And when we're really busy at the restaurant, we'll actually be baking them every 10 minutes. So it's a really fresh product.
Oh, wow.
The bread itself doesn't have yeast, so it won't hold its form. It's some people like to compare it to a popover. Okay. And so after maybe 20 minutes, they'll start to deflate because of the way it doesn't have yeast, which is why we have to constantly be making it fresh.
I got you. Well, I can't eat them fast enough, so.
So good.
It's ridiculous.
Good.
Interrupting you guys for just a number of seconds here. As you saw, Melissa is answering my questions about Avenida Brazil and Brazilian Steakhouses in general. She's going to be answering a lot more of questions coming from current subscribers of the Eastwood Energy channel. But if you have questions that were unanswered from this podcast, just put your questions down below and I will make sure to get that answer for you. And keep watching and see if your question is already answered. And I also always wonder, because I'm like, who goes to the salad bar when there's these things available? I don't.
You know, I would say that everyone should visit the salad bar.
Okay.
I like to joke that the healthy people like to go visit the salad
Not
bar.
me, guys.
So, but there's bacon on the salad bar, so if you are not visiting, you are missing out on bacon and lobster bisque.
Oh my gosh, you guys have lobster bisque?
Exactly. See, you don't go. You don't go. And you don't see all the great stuff.
I've learned something today. Now I'll be more full, even more ridiculously. All right, thank you for that. All right, so obviously I had mentioned that that I went to the Clear Lake location. In the past, that was not named Avenida. You guys have 3 locations. You opened the one in Southwest Houston in 2008. So you guys have been around for 12 years. Tell me a little bit about how you guys started, how you guys came up, how you guys grew, and what's that looked like? I know your dad started, of course, Luis. Yeah. How did that all start, and how did you guys get to where you are?
Yeah, no, so it was Vandelay and our executive chef, who's our executive chef, and then also my dad, Louis. Yeah. And so they started on really humble beginnings. Small restaurant, right on 59 in Hillcroft.
Yeah. Nice place.
Yeah, right next door to a used car dealership. Actually, when I was younger, we used to feed, because at night the security system for the used car dealership was attack dogs.
Nice.
And so I would go there and I would feed them cheese bread.
Oh, of course. That only makes sense. I bet they loved you.
Oh, they loved it. I think I trained them not to be attack dogs.
Yeah, you just go by one day and the little thing is on green. And you're just like, all right, you guys get it.
Yeah. But no, so really humble beginnings. And then so that was 2008. In 2010, we opened Clear Lake. And then in 2011, we moved Southwest Houston to closer to Stafford, Sugarland, right on 59 in between Willcrest and West Airport. Yeah. And so we opened that location in 2011, and that's actually when I came on board. So I joined the team at that time.
Welcome aboard.
Yes. It's been a journey. And then in 2017, we opened our Woodlands location.
Okay. Yeah. So very recent. So roughly the same time as Eastwood. So that's pretty cool. We're starting the journey together.
Yes, all together.
All
Maybe
together.
Actually 2018. I'm having a moment where I'm like, was it 2018?
They all blend together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you did rebrand to Avenidas. What made that rebrand happen?
So for so long, it went as Churrascaria Brazilian Steakhouse.
Yep.
And I did all the marketing. And so this is basically, I would look at all the analytics and see how people were searching for us. And it was really entertaining.
Not with the correct spelling, I'm sure.
It was definitely not the correct spelling.
Yeah.
And so, when we opened up our Woodlands location, our brand since 2008 has completely evolved. It's changed. Yeah. We like to say that we use it's a Brazilian steakhouse, but we use modern flavors. How we approach things are different. We've been totally influenced by our neighbors here in Texas and how we do things. And so we took the opportunity and we said, you know what, why don't we let all of our locations reflect what we feel like is our identity now in this point. And so we decided to rebrand all the locations at the same time, which was an endeavor.
Yeah.
We decided on the name Avenida Brazil because our executive chef Vandelay, so in Brazil, Avenida is actually a street that can be found in almost every town. Okay. It's like similar to how Main Street is here. You find it in New York, you find it in LA, you find it in Houston. Yeah.
Not odd that it has Ave in the name.
So Avenida Brazil is like a street you can find in Rio. It's actually the longest street there. It can be found in Sao Paulo. It can be found in the little towns. All of them have it.
Okay, I got you.
And so when he was younger, he used to go to Avenida Brazil because he was living in the country. He's a country boy from the south of Brazil, like really small town. He used to walk to school like 8 miles.
Up a hill both ways?
Yeah, no, literally. It was like up hills, and he had to walk barefoot because he didn't have shoes. Like, he had shoes, but he couldn't walk in his shoes because if you walked to school in your shoes, you would ruin your shoes. And so he would walk barefoot and then put his shoes when he got to the door. But
that sounds so sad. It sounds like you can make a commercial out of that.
Oh my gosh. So, but throughout the year when it was a special occasion, they would go to Avenida, Brazil, in his hometown. And it was like the main street, and it had everything there. And it just really represented to him what was possible and what he wanted to achieve in his life. And so...
so out of all the Brazilian steakhouses, then, this is the equivalent of the best one that everyone should have. This is the main Brazilian steakhouse. Main one. Got you. Yeah, that's actually a cool story. That's a really cool story. I feel like that one's getting chopped up for the gram.
Fair enough.
For sure. Speaking of having your unique style, specific style, and how the brand represents that, I did have a question from, I think it was Julian. And he was asking about, like, how do you guys differentiate? How do you season? And also, how do you tenderize the meat?
Yeah, no, good questions. What was the first part of that question?
So how do you differentiate yourselves from other Brazilian steakhouses? And then it was, how do you season it and how do you tenderize them? Tenderize the meat.
I'm going to start off with the differentiating question.
The tenderizing was actually from Teresa. Julian got the first one.
Dual question.
Dual question. Very good at building. Very good at building these questions.
So, in terms of differentiating, I'm going to take it actually from like a business perspective, not just from us perspective. Okay. So you want to think about maybe what is in the market, what people are doing, and then how you can be just a notch better or offer something different.
Right.
And so for us, when we really kind of were defining our style, we saw a lot of other places and restaurants that are similar in concept, and they focus a lot on the quickness and being really fast. And part of that is just because they're so busy.
Yeah.
But there's like definitely a level of like that's really important to them. It's like, how can I be really, really fast? And for us, we wanted to be able to say, like, when you come in, I like the idea that you just get to take a breath and you just get to relax.
Right.
And our staff come in and they come in and they're really kind. So that's something that we try really hard to do is when we hire servers, we look really for, are you kind?
Yeah.
Like, is that an intrinsic value that you have? Right. Because making people just feel really relaxed and not feel so rushed and almost having like a calm environment around you. And so we try to make like our locations when we do design just to feel like a place that you can just go. Right. It is nice, but you can also just take a breath. So that's one way. Other ways is that we just also, because we are here in Houston, we get to listen a little bit better. So some of the things that people like to request is they say, hey, we want things that are different. Right. So one of them was seafood. They kept asking us for, why don't you do seafood? And seafood... I've
noticed that,
Yeah, seafood isn't something that... They have it in Brazil, but Brazilian steakhouses in Brazil definitely are beef, pork, and chicken. Like, that's like the big focuses.
Right.
And then there are some that do offer seafood, especially now. But when they asked us for that, really, our chefs just said, you're right. Why don't we have this?
Yeah.
And so we actually spent months looking for the right kind of salmon, because when we're using our grills, they're grilling at about 700 degrees. It's really hot.
Yeah.
It's really hot. My oven at home does not get that hot.
I don't turn mine on, so I have no idea.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to eat with you.
Exactly.
So when we're grilling at that high of a temperature and we're using skewers, so it means it's on a rotation. If you don't get the right quality of salmon, it's gonna just it won't stay on the skewer. So we had to find the right quality that could stay on the skewer, that had a lot of flavor and really a lot of fat, because that's what kind of keeps it there, and it keeps it moist by the time it gets to your table. So seafood is one of them. The shrimp, people on Yelp when you read our Yelp reviews, that's one of the things that they talk about the most. Yeah,
most.
they're like, the shrimp.
Yeah.
So,
Man, now I'm going to have to go back. Oh, my God.
It's entertaining. But that's like one of them, the service level. And then the other parts that we try to differentiate ourselves is going to be our private events. So something that people don't realize about our Brazilian Steakhouse is that I like to say we're one of the best when it comes to private events in any restaurant in Houston. So we've won so many awards. Both of our event team, all of them have wedding certifications, wedding planner certifications.
Oh, wow, okay. I have been to a wedding that was
here,
actually over there in the Clear Lake location.
Oh my goodness, yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was already a fan. I was like, I don't have to do any normal wedding food. Yes.
Yeah. No, so that was like our food was really great, and then we just kind of tied it all together.
Right.
And then, like both of our event coordinators right now, they won numerous awards this past holidays through the National Association of Catering and Event Professionals.
Oh, awesome.
So it's not me saying they're great.
Yeah.
It's like other people saying that they're great.
That's always good, right?
And then I go,
good job, guys.
Yeah.
Self-high five.
Incredible, yeah. No, but we have like, I think on Wedding Wire, we have 65 star reviews.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, which no one would ever realize.
No. Well, I would love to say that I will have it for my eventual wedding, but I have a feeling I have zero say in what we do.
Mama drama.
What is that drama? I just said I don't want to get hurt. But, well, that's awesome that
Tenderizing.
I'm sorry. Tenderizing,
yes,
you're right.
So there's that one, and then seasoning.
Yeah, so, well, real quick, so basically what you said, the biggest things were, it seems, that I heard was really the experience of feeling like almost at home, like coming in here very, very serene, very calm, like
one step up from home because you shouldn't wear your pajamas.
Okay, no pajamas. Pajamas not allowed.
Yeah, no, I mean, you could.
You could? Okay, pajamas allowed. I fixed that. Cut that. Pajamas allowed. So yeah, seasoning and tenderizing was the next. How do you season and tenderize everything?
So in Brazil, the meats that we have there, we really focus on quality, and then they'd use rock salt.
Rock salt.
And that's pretty much the only seasoning that they, a little bit of the Salt Bay.
Yeah.
No, so they use rock salt for a lot of it. And so and that's one of those things where our chef was able to reflect and say, do I like the most traditional way of doing things?
Yeah.
And he said, no, I don't. Actually, I think it could be better.
Yeah.
And so he decided that he wanted to have every meat just have a subtle, unique flavor. So we didn't want to go too crazy. We didn't want to add like really heavy sauces. That's not the Brazilian way. Right. We wanted to focus on like the quality of the meat, the natural flavors of the meat, and then just taking it one step further and enhancing it through like a marinade, or sometimes it's just salt and pepper. Sometimes it's just rock salt. Sometimes it's going to be like rock salt and a spice blend. But however we try to stay really true to what the flavor.
So you're playing more to the cooking of the meat, what the meat itself, the cut already has by itself.
And just enhancing it just a little bit. Okay. And so by not adding too much, we don't want to cover up the like really good flavors of whatever you're eating.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so for example, our picanha, it's a top sirloin.
I've heard about this.
That one's so good. It's like a moon when it comes over. Yeah. They slice it off.
I never
really
knew it was
thin.
called that until recently. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't know that was the word. And I was like, oh yes, that one.
That, yes, I want that.
Yes.
In my mouth, please, thank you. Yes. No, so that one we just put rock salt. Right. And what happens is when it's grilling at 700 degrees, it has that layer of the fat on the outside. We call that the cap. Yeah. And so when it's grilling, that's what's giving it all the flavor.
Right, okay.
And it's so good. We have, for example, our lamb chops. We marinate those in white wine, fresh mint. Awesome. And then we season it with a little bit of like lemon pepper.
The mint taste for sure.
Oh yeah, it's so good. But what's interesting is that you don't want to do long-term marinades for that one. So sometimes people assume that like, oh, it's better if you marinate it over 36 hours or 24 hours. And yes, sometimes that enhances meats and it makes it delicious. In lamb's case, it actually doesn't. So we try to do it only for about 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
So
So what you're
really
saying,
short marinade.
What you're saying is lamb in general is very difficult.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Come eat here.
So they have a very difficult meat, and they do it perfectly. Just a big billboard for you guys. And then tenderizing. I know this is a long question.
Yeah. What?
Tenderizing, yeah.
No, so it was 3 questions.
Yeah, it was. I tried to condense. It didn't work out too well.
So tenderizing, short version, is we try to buy aged meats. So actually all of the meats, especially the beef items that we buy, are vacuum sealed and they're wet aged.
Yeah.
Which means that they sit in our distributors and they are able to like really become tender on their own.
Okay.
And so you want to start off with the quality that's there, because there's no true good way when you're, especially in the ways that we're grilling it, like without any seasonings, not a lot of marinades, to like tenderize the meat that way.
Okay.
Like we're doing it more for flavor, not to like break down proteins.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you want to start off with like a really good aged meat. It could be Angus, or it could be, a type of wet aged product.
Okay, got you. All right, perfect.
Yeah.
So everything that I've heard is basically come eat here. I already know it's amazing. It sounds even more amazing now that I hear it. Interrupting you guys one more time for 2 things. Of course, I'm so happy for all the questions that Melissa answered for us about Brazilian steakhouses, specifically about Avenida, Brazil. If you have any other burning questions, please, please, please put them in the comments below, and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer them for you, if not relay the information to me. Number 2, I will be interviewing Dave of Replay Games, which is a retro games store. And if you have any questions that you would love for me to ask him, any curiosities at all, leave them in the comments below. I'll make sure to have them on the show, and then you can get your question answered. So obviously there's a lot of moving parts. You have a lot going on here. Not only are you making sure that everyone feels more than at home here, you guys are making sure that all the food is completely on point, taking feedback from your customers, changing the menu as you need to. That's got to be, for lack of a better phrase, a lot of stress. So for someone who's running a company or a restaurant, or has multiple restaurants that they're running, how do you keep sane?
No, so I think sometimes the biggest thing when it comes to like helping you keep sane is you have to be at least breaking even.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That's the number. That's like
so you have to
that's
be
real talk.
Real talk. Okay.
So if you're breaking even or even making money, that helps a lot.
Right.
But for example, when we opened our Woodlands location, which was our most recent location, we opened it about 1 month before Hurricane Harvey came in town. Jeez. And so that was a tackle in itself, and I feel like I've had stress before. I mean, with any business, you have stress of, especially in the beginning days, and sometimes even, when you're more successful, or perceived as more successful, you'll have the struggles of like, hey, especially cash businesses, am I going to hit payroll?
Yes.
How what are we going to do? And so like, I know for us in the Woodlands, like that in itself was a big
hitting payroll.
I mean, and so I know I didn't take a check for about 6 months.
Oh wow.
And so
how do you really bring your A game 6 months straight, $0?
Oh, it was 2 years.
Oh, okay.
It was 2 years of it didn't break even. And so what happens when you have 3 locations, maybe you have some others that are doing well, and it definitely, you have to pull from the resources of those locations.
Yeah.
And you just keep grinding and you hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But I think sometimes, like for some businesses, you have to also sit back and say, is there a light? Yeah. Or am I grinding with no end in sight?
Right, okay.
And I think that's a difficult conversation. But for us, we didn't believe that. Right. We said, we're grinding and we see this light at the end of this tunnel.
You know it works at the other locations.
Yeah.
It's just going to take time.
But I think what happened with me and like with the business is that after a while, the restaurants became my identity and my personality, and its successes were my successes and its failures were my failures. And my moods were swung by it.
Oh, yeah.
And so actually 2 years into it, I decided, hey, I need a therapist.
Yeah.
I need to like somehow break this cycle that I'm in because I'm coming home and my husband's, you know, he's had a great day. And he's like, hey, why are you so upset? Like, you know, like it doesn't sound, and I was like, you know, these people someone didn't show, or we were losing money, or, oh my goodness, the grill broke and that's $8,000. And it was really starting to like affect me as a person.
Right.
And so that's when I decided to get a therapist. And actually it's been great. It has totally. Actually, I told my therapist this recently, I said, hey, you know, my husband considers me going to you to see you like every, you know, week or 2 weeks. He considers it like paying the electricity bill. He's like, it happens. You need to do it. You need to go and we need to pay it.
How ironic that you're on this show from your electricity broker. So pay your electricity bill. I mean, get a therapist.
Cover your basic needs.
Well, that's actually, a lot of people don't talk about that. No. A lot of people, it's very taboo to talk about mental health, and especially you know, entrepreneurs or business owners, we get an insane amount of stress, and it's almost perceived that because we're successful, we don't have problems. We don't get sad or angry or upset, you know. So yeah, I would highly recommend it. I myself as well see a professional to make sure that I keep the lights on. That's good. I like that. So speaking of doing all that, making sure it's profitable, it actually brings me to another question that was asked about the fact that this is essentially endless meat. You know, is it possible for someone to eat their entry to negative, and how much does that take, and how likely does that happen?
So the short answer is yes.
So you can.
You can definitely do it really easily, actually.
Really easily, really.
No, I mean, I think there's like a perception when you have unlimited that quality. And to some extent, you know, like we're not going to be doing dry age because then I would definitely be losing so much money. But I mean, there are a lot of like expensive products that we buy, and then something else that people don't talk about, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm going to eat this much," but maybe they waste more.
That sucks.
And so it's kind of that funny little balance, but it's really easy. I mean, in terms of the highest cost items, it would be things like our filet is a really high cost item, our lamb, any of the cheeses on our salad bar. So I have a joke with the staff that the cheeses are more expensive than the meats, but it's actually a true joke. So
oh wow!
It's like not funny. It's
you're
true.
You're like, ha, but for real.
Yeah, but for real.
Let's make sure that doesn't go bad.
Cut it smaller, please.
Wow. Okay. See, maybe I should stay away from the salad bar then, or at least don't just get the bacon.
And that's actually a big perception is that, oh, the salad bar is where people can load up on things. And I'm like, no, you know, I do have some really high cost items that we put on our salad bar. Like smoked salmon, for example. That would be extremely. People get excited. But you could easily eat your way through it. And so I would say if you ignored all the side dishes and you really only ate all through the meats, and maybe you ate like a couple pounds, or you like ate a lot of cheese. If you ate just cheese and meat, go keto style. You could definitely eat your way through it.
So go keto and eat about 2 pounds, and you got them. That's it.
But please bring someone who doesn't eat as much to equal out.
and also get dessert, and also buy 2 bottles of wine. There we go. They'll even. Yeah, I gotta think. You know, the alcohol, of course, and desserts, I would think help make up for that. Yeah, you're like
definitely yes.
You're like yes.
Please order all the desserts and all the alcohol.
All the alcohol. You'll Uber them home.
Don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive. They will Uber you.
Yeah.
No, they won't Uber you.
No, I won't Uber you.
But you should get an Uber.
We'll call it for you.
Well, there you go. At least you're at home service, home service. Oh, awesome. So that question, I had another specific question. I can't remember it exactly. Oh, okay. So you mentioned how you did all the analytics on Google, looked at the old, because I can't even pronounce it anymore. I never was able to pronounce it.
Churrascaria. Yeah.
Churrascaria. Yes. Before I did it in a French accent, which was weird. But so you obviously looked at the analytics. You were looking to see how people researched it. Obviously, there's some marketing, advertising involved. So many restaurants in the Houston area. What advice would you give in terms of marketing, digital marketing, or what have you, that you guys have found success in that kind of helps you guys differentiate?
Yeah, no, I think finding a company to help you with your SEO is huge, especially now with everyone just wanting to look at Google, and they'll type in things like best restaurant near me, or they type in things like, Thai food close by or whatever. And then Google, of course, does that. Yeah. And so I think there is a lot of it that naturally just happens.
Yeah, of course.
But then there's a lot of it that as business owners, we know that we have to spend to get us onto certain pages. Even if it's perceived as organic, or you're organically showing up.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot on that, and I highly recommend it. So for example, if you're energy, then you would look up, I don't know what cheap energy for business.
Renew my electricity contract.
Something like that, and then you slowly pay because maybe you realize you're on page 30.
Right.
And in internet terms, that's like where you hide dead bodies. Yeah, exactly. Like no one's gonna look at page 30. So like
that's true. Yeah. I don't think I've clicked past one in years.
Yeah. So you're like, meh. And then if you're not satisfied with that first page option, then you type in something new.
You're like, this obviously did not. There's 99 options, but this obviously did not give me what I needed.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. You know what always comes up for Eastwood? The one that, hands down, get my electricity from a bald guy. Always get that one.
Winning.
Very niche.
Yeah. No, and actually niche is great.
Yeah, niche is great.
So, for example, you want to really pay for those words that you think that are relevant to your business, that people are going to be happy when they find you.
Yeah.
And so you organically show up on the search pages. But we also pay for Google, Yelp. I have OpenTable. We pay for different ways, and then we do a lot of community involvement. And so that's really important to us, especially in each of our areas, because we're not quite in Houston, we're on the outsides. And so we like to do a lot of events and partner with nonprofits to spread our name.
Okay. And Facebook paid for ads?
I do, but lately they've just been changing so much, and so I just need to relearn it.
Okay,
so. Yeah. It's its own animal.
TikTok?
Yeah, not yet. Not yet.
Hey,
Instagram.
I've heard TikTok is insanely good. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure you could probably make. There's so many cool things at a Brazilian Steakhouse. I feel like you could crush it on TikTok.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we could be really good. I just need to get cooler.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. All you have to do is you have to hire some Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Us millennials are already getting old. It's bad.
Yeah, no, we don't know.
We don't know what we're doing.
What is happening?
This is a game you play with the ball and you pick it up.
And then they dance, and I'm not good at dancing, so then I just get intimidated by how good they are. It's just not.
I'm good at. Apparently, I'm good at dancing. From what I'm told. I've been
bald
told.
Guy dancing. If you Google. Google bald guy dancing that sells energy.
Exactly. There we go. There we go. That's funnel all the money into that. That's all we're gonna do. Well, awesome. No, SEO. Yeah, SEO. I've found is really what you got to have on. We're trying to get that done as well. But it's so expensive. It can get so expensive.
It gets really expensive. Yeah.
Google AdWords can get pretty gnarly.
Well, Google AdWords, and so that's why. So a couple years ago, we decided to focus on trying to get the organic search so that we could decrease how much we spend in Google AdWords. And actually now it's starting to really pay off because it takes a long time.
Yeah, no, it's just, from what I understand, SEO is like long game because you really need to be out there because Google, I guess, does it based on like how you've done it correctly and also age, right? So, well, I guess we got to be around for another 20 years. But by then there'll be like 9 different.
We'll be number one in 20 years.
Number one. Hey, you're already number one in my heart. I was gonna ask. So I have 2 more questions. One's a little silly, but this one first. In general, as someone who's running a restaurant, and we've already kind of touched on this, like how to keep everything running. But just in general, what would you say is the number one thing? You talked about someone's coming in, it feels like home, you have the quality. Out of all those things, what do you think is the number one thing that a new business should focus on if they can't do everything, or a new restaurant should focus on to make sure their customers keep coming back?
Ooh, coming back question.
I have good questions.
I know. Now, some things that we do, and I'm going to kind of tackle it from a marketing perspective, is we try really hard to invite them back while they're here. One, you want to start off great experience, because if you don't have that to build on, then that part gets really hard. And so, but if you have that, then it's like, hey, join my marketing stuff. We'll tell you all about. You want to keep things also kind of fresh.
Right.
And so one of the ways that one of our strategies is that we bring in what we call Texas Kobe or Wagyu 4 times a year. And it just, people get so excited. Really excited. It's super expensive. It's expensive for us. Like, we actually have to tell the farm, like, months in advance so that they can slaughter enough cows.
Oh, wow.
And, like, allocate for us. So
that sounds...
it's a process. But we do it 4 times a year, and that gets them really, really excited.
You did it last year near the end of the year, right?
Yeah, so I think we're going to do it again maybe March.
Okay, because I remember your dad telling me, and he was like, you should come by. And I was like in Dallas, and I was like, God damn
it. Well, and there's a balance too, because if you say something is special, you need to treat it like it's special too. So because we were like, man, people like this so much. So this location in Woodlands, we actually added it to the menu full time for a period of time. And we realized it actually made it not as special. So then we just did it 4 times. And it was too expensive. So now we do it 4 times a year.
Well, you already told me about all I have to do is eat the cheese and the meat and get you guys negative. So you throw that in there. I'm like, I'm only taking the Wagyu. Only the Wagyu. And the cheese. So I'm going to take the cheese and put it on top of it, actually.
I'm going to make a sandwich with a layer of steak with cheese and another layer of filet and then the lamb chops on top.
There we go.
It's actually a meat cake. A meat and cheesecake.
That sounds like something you get in like London in the UK. They always have these things where you're just like, that doesn't sound appetizing.
Shepherd's, what is that?
What is that? I don't know.
What is this kind of pie?
This is terrible. I want an apple. Anyway. Well, that's so basically you got to keep it fresh.
You want to keep it fresh, and then you want to think of like ways that who could be repeat customers. Because sometimes customers, especially with our concept, it's not an everyday thing. Some people are everyday, but like maybe for birthdays or anniversaries or so something else that we do is we'll go back into our reservation system and we'll like call last year's birthdays. And we invite them back and we try to think of ways like that. Like maybe they just let it slip and they're like, we just call them and we say, hey, do you want to make a reservation? We'd love to have you back here.
Awesome.
So,
you know a special event I'll come in for?
Tell me.
When
Meat and cheese day.
Meat and cheese day. Well, I was going to say when I could fit in one more loop in my belt. I'm like, I'm ready. Yes, I'm ready. All right, I have a ridiculous question that I thought of. Because I always like, so obviously you have your wait staff coming by with knives.
Yes.
And
they're really sharp knives.
They are very sharp knives. Obviously, I trust in you guys as professionals. Has anyone ever gotten so freaked out, first experience, by that situation that they've left or they've asked you, like, is this safe?
Not that question.
No, I mean, I know it's safe. I just feel like someone might get freaked out if it was their first time.
I think that a lot of people, when they haven't experienced a Brazilian steakhouse, they do get freaked out.
Okay.
Like, because then it feels like a trick.
Yeah.
You know, like if you've never gone to a Brazilian steakhouse, it feels like, wait, so I can get as much as I want? What if I only want 3 items? And you're like, yes. And they're like, what if I only want it medium rare? And you're like, yes. And they're like, what if I go to the salad bar and I come back and then I go to the salad bar again? And I'm like, you can do that.
You're like, the world is yours at Avenida.
And they get really like, they're just like, the questions really, actually, it's so cute. That makes my day because I'm like, yes. And then by the end of it, they're like, you meant it. Or they'll be like, what if I bring my son who plays football and basketball and he's 17 years old and he can eat a whole cow on his own? And I'm like, yes. Yeah, you're like, yes. Yeah, you're like, you can.
You're like, bringeth your child.
I'm like, if you want to be entertained by how much he's eating, please be my guest.
But you're like,
I have a lot.
Yeah, we got a lot of meat back there. You're like, but buy a bottle of wine.
Maybe 2. But not the 17-year-old. He should buy a limeade and a dessert.
So the short of it is no one's actually left because of how.
No, they don't get that scared
but they think it's a magic trick. How much?
I think it's like they think it's like a magic. They just assume that we're really good at holding these knives.
Oh, okay, okay, got you.
So they're like, oh, they're professionals. Look at how they're holding these knives. They're
like, how are there so many magicians in one restaurant?
Yeah, you have like faith that we know what we're doing. Usually by then, it's like it seems like they do this a lot.
Yep. It's very
but I would say like if you've never experienced a Brazilian steakhouse, that's the question that we get the most.
Okay.
Like,
So they just don't believe you.
No, they don't believe you until they sit there and then they're like, "This is the best." They're like, "What if she gets something and she doesn't like it?" I'm like, "She doesn't have to eat it."
They're like,
"What?"
Mind blown. They're like, you're like just thin slices of the cheese.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's piqued all my curiosities. I hope everyone that's listening. In the comments below, if you have any other questions about Brazilian steakhouses, or meat or cheese, or how to stay,
anything else.
or anything else,
or
how
parties,
to, or parties,
Sunday brunch.
Sunday brunch sounds great. You're like, buy all the mimosas. But anyways, I am Roger Dupre with Eastwood Energy Group. This is Melissa Abrantes with Avenida, Brazil. Thank you again for coming on.
Pleasure.
And
Thank you.
And thank you for answering all the questions. Yeah. And just remember, guys, green means go, red means no. Hey guys, this is Roger Dupre again of Eastwood Energy. Thanks one more time for watching this show. If you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button, smash that like button. And if you want to hear more amazing information about local businesses or just in general like to see this beautiful face, please hit the subscribe button. And then I have 2 more things for you. Number 1, if there's any questions that were unanswered by Melissa that you just have a burning desire to ask, throw it down in the comments below. I will make sure to have her jump on here and get those questions answered. She'll be happy to do it, I'm sure, and if not, relay the information to me. Number 2, then, is that I'll actually be interviewing the owner, Dave, of Replay Games, which is a retro gaming console, everything gaming kind of store. And if you have any questions for him, if you have any questions for Dave, make sure to put them in the comments down below, and I will make sure to ask them on episode 12 of Texas Tea. Once again, if you like this video, smash that like. If you want to see my beautiful face or just love hearing these Texas Tea episodes, hit that subscribe button and get on with Eastwood Energy.